Welcome to the part 2 of our beautiful and exciting conversation with Msgr Gabriel, the Secretary General of the Pontifical Fondazione, Gravissimum Educationis. So we have heard during the part 1 conversation we had with him how exciting life has been with him. And I remember, Msgr Gabriel, you mentioned that you're about to retire, but you were cold. So this is one thing that we will discuss. What is this Gravissimum, Fondazione Gravissimum Foundation? So what are the challenges that, comes to you? It's not very easy, So maybe it's better to introduce, why did His Holiness establish this foundation? Because as soon as he was elected, why emphasize on education? And that together with Cardinal Bersaldi, you have a very good teamwork. And then have you foreseen that you're going to get involved in this project?
Mm-hmm. This is a very involving demand, because I would have to step back a little bit to give you a better background, concerning my venue to the Pontifical Foundation, Gravissimum Educationis. As I said, I was for more than 30 years totally dedicated to the International Federation of Catholic Universities, which means that I was in contact with hundreds of Catholic universities everywhere in the world. That is the reason why, for me, coming to the Philippines, it's always new, but it's not new because I had the wonderful opportunity to come rather often to the Philippines, like I did with every single continent of the world where we have Catholic university. So this is extremely important because it has been shaping also not only my vision of education, it has been shaping my vision of the world and my vision also of the Church. I really discovered in such a concrete way how the Church is universal. And at the same time, our Church is also Roman, embedded in Roman culture. So being at the Federation, it was a kind of an observatory of the social conditions of the various countries of the world. I was touring the world, the 5 continents, once a year for 30 years. Once a year, I was touching every continent. So to me, it's most probably, together with faith, the greatest gift that I have received. So as I said, it really shaped my mind. It was a cultural, social observatory. It was also an observatory of the various practices, initiatives of the whole Church. It is immense diversity, because we are not Catholic Church in the Philippines, like in Colombia, or like in Togo, or like in Canada. No, the Church is the Church, but the Church is also living, embedded concretely through the cultures. So this is also, I would say, the most exciting dimension, dynamic also of the Church. So I have been working, observing so much, discovering wonderful human beings everywhere. So I was extremely privileged. So I really want to highlight that. I was extremely privileged as a person, very privileged, to really discover the world, at least the world of education, the world of Christian education, and also the back practices of the Church. So I did that for so many years, through also, of course, stimulating the idea of and the role, the mission of the Catholic University.
So we will come back, with the beautiful conversation again we had. So you see, it's very exciting, right? Because every time Monsieur Gabriel opened his mouth, there is something new that we can learn, the wisdom. So abangan po ninyo ang pagbabalik ng Power to Unite with Elvira. Monsieur Gabriel, thank you so much for enlightening me, for making me understand the hard work you are doing and the challenges that you are facing. So, when you accepted, you were called to take over this foundation, what is your reaction here?
Yeah, first and foremost, I remember when I was approached by the Holy See to be entrusted, I would say, that new foundation, because it has been created in 2015 by Pope Francis. So I said, what a big challenge. But I had some reasons, some motivations to accept it. I used to say that I was a piece of the furniture of the International Federation,
Yes.
known everywhere. Everybody knew me. So they were coming, they knew exactly who I was. So because I had developed a lot of very good relation, even, great friendship with so many rectors, professors, and all that. So that was point. But that is not sufficient. That was not sufficient. To me, I had, and that had really motivated, I would say, my acceptance of the challenge of the Gravissimum Educationis. All along the years, I discovered so clearly that if you want to change the world, if you want to create a new world, in spite of all the challenges that we have, because, we have so many challenges nowadays, very inherent to our human condition, to our social condition, and also inherent also to the development of personal and community life. This is life for everybody, in a way or another. So I really discovered along these years that we have to rethink education. We have to rethink education in accordance with the new challenges, the new exigencies of today's world. And it's very important, to be aware of the fact that the world, since the last 40 years more or less, has changed much more than before the 2 centuries before. So changes are really accelerated, and the face of the world really changed. Even, and this is a big preoccupation for me, the way we refer to the human being, to the person. We think nowadays that we can dispose the way we want of the human beings, of the person, of the body of the women, for instance, of the human condition, of the human dignity. Also, now the common good doesn't mean anything. Even politically, the Greek, centuries ago, had a clearer vision of democracy than we do today.
Mm-hmm.
Today we talk about democracy, but most of the time we have democratures and not democracies, just to re-educate the population. Because if you don't have the sense of the common good, and the Greek used to say something so interesting Aristotle, for instance, when he writes about democracy, he gives also conditions. And the two conditions for democracy are, first of all, the respect of justice. If there is no justice, there is no democracy. Plus, if you really want to instill a real democracy, the people must be disposed to practice the virtues. Said by Aristotle centuries ago, who was not a Christian at all. But these are basic ingredients. So all these elements were part of my vision, you know. So I said, I take up the challenge. It was something new. And I found it also humanly, it was very exciting humanly, because it's a new challenge. Everything has to be built, has to be defined. We had statutes, but that was about it. They gave me, a couple of pieces of papers with statutes, pontifical statutes, and then you have to build something. So we started in 75. So the foundation started to be, a little bit active in 76, and since then it has been growing. So these are the main reasons why I have accepted the challenge of the foundation. So coming to the specificity of the foundation, it is something very interesting to highlight. And it's very much along the line that I was talking about education before and the new needs of education. Of course, research, because when we are working in education, research is always an important component of the education. Formation as well, and also trying the definition of new models of education, very much along the line of some of my discoveries when I was at the Federation, because to me it was becoming evident that new ways of thinking education were becoming absolutely necessary, even urgent. So that dimension of the foundation for me is very, very important. New models of education. And another ingredient also, that is working with the others. A good educator must never be isolated in his own milieu, no, and the institutions themselves must be connected. So networking is really a basic element, a component, I would say, of the Gravissimum Educationis Foundation. So these are, I would say, the main dimensions that we do take into account in every single activity of the foundation. This is a panorama, this is a map, I would say, and this is really, I would say even so, this is the identity of the foundation. And there is something interesting, because Pope Francis was absolutely aware of the fact that we have to move forward in education, in new models of education. So that is the reason why he created the Gravissimum Educationis Foundation in the frame of the Congregation for Catholic Education. When we talk about the Congregation for Catholic Education, it's not a religious congregation. It is a ministry. So our foundation is located in the frame of the Ministry of Education of the Holy See. So this is already a very strong message. There is a sign there that the foundation is associated with the universities, because we have 1,760 Catholic universities in the world, and with the schools, we have 200,000 and 260,000 schools in the world, millions and millions and millions of students. So the work of the foundation is at the core, I would say, at the core of the mission of the foundation. It's complex because education is a world of diversity also. There is an enormous diversity. So if you have to learn how to cope with all these elements, you know. But I mean, there is such a satisfaction coming out of that, such a satisfaction. Why? Because you are not working with pieces of wood. You're not working with cements. You are trying to make grow, to create the right conditions so the human beings can grow and they can become themselves, you know. So this is the only one objective of life. What about that? The rest is important, but it has to get along with that also. If we don't have that preoccupation in every single vocation, every single professional life, we have to be basically preoccupied for the growth of the people that we are working with and for.
The right, education should be given to the young people right now, because it should be our focus when we come back with Power to Unite with Elvira. Msgr Gabriel, now that you are here in the Philippines, I would like to know, and maybe for the Filipino audience, why come at this time, all the way to the Philippines, and that what we are doing here at La Salle, Dasmariñas, so maybe you can give an idea so that the young Filipinos will be inspired to understand the working of the Holy See.
Exactly. So the project we give a very attractive title to the project, Good news make headlines. Because, the press globally is so negative, and the more negative it is, the more interesting they think that it will be for the public, which is terrible, So there is, at the Holy See, there is a preoccupation. The dicastery, the Ministry of Communication, is working all over the world. They are broadcasting in 42 languages, But they do consider that they don't have enough good, fresh, raw material in terms of information, in terms of videos, in terms of communication from various parts of the world. And they came to us and they said, why don't we develop a project together? Okay. So one of my colleagues is specialist in communication. So we have been discussing with the communication of the Holy See. We have been discussing, and we have established a double collaboration, of course with them, but with two universities located, I would say, one here in the Philippines, the La Salle University Dasmariñas, and the other one is Christ University in India. Why these two universities? First, because according to the needs of the Holy See, they don't have enough news. And most of the time, the younger generations are not really present in the news that they receive from the Philippines. I'm sure that those that are working in communication are doing a very good job. But the Holy See needs, I would say, needs to refresh a little bit the material, and also to implement more material concerning the Philippines, the church in the Philippines. And it is so important to say publicly in the front of the Filipino people, the church is so active, the church is also so original, and the church is so stimulating and so present in this country that the younger generation have a lot of things to tell to the rest of the world. Because when you enter into communication with the Holy See, it's not necessarily and only for the Holy See. It is for the rest of the world. So that project is a way, is to give, I would say, a voice to the Filipinos through their younger generations, give them a voice to broadcast the good news, to broadcast the spirit, to broadcast the activities, to broadcast, I would say, the dynamism of the Filipino church, but to the rest of the world, but through the eyes of younger generations. But younger generations, but already well trained. They are very well trained. They almost finish their training at a university. So it becomes, something so fresh, so dynamic, and so inspiring. So we have that project here at De La Salle das Marinas, and then we will have it also, because I will be there in a couple of weeks, in India at Christ University. And it's very interesting because all the participants, I've seen that, most of the participants in the project, most of them are Christian and Catholic, but not all of them. And it's very good, because this is the picture of the Filipinos. Here you have some Christian, you have Catholics, and you have other religions. So it's very important to make sure that the mosaic, the religious mosaic of the Philippines, will emerge also from that information. Of course, at the foundation, we also have other projects, as you can imagine. For instance, we had been working very, very much since almost 4 years on the problematic of democracy. What does that mean today, talking about democracy in a pluricultural and plurireligious context? What is democracy? Because we have lost sight of a healthy democracy. Even in countries like United States or, elsewhere, democracy has lost its real value. And we don't know anymore. What we call democracy nowadays very often is plutocracy. It is a democracy of money. It's only money, And this is not real democracy. It is not real democracy.
So you have to prepare yourself to be open-minded and to seek the right approach. So what will be your message to the Filipino audience now? Short message.
Very short message. The importance of education, the importance of their formation. They have as much as possible, and this is also an important responsibility of all the politics. It is an important responsibility to create the right conditions for education of the younger generations, education, formation, not exclusively education of the memory, but education of the head, education of the heart, education of the arms. Through education, you learn how to open your arms towards the others, how to open your heart. This is the real education. Education is not necessarily, a big amount of information that you accumulate in your mind. Education is much more the way you transform yourself as a human being by your approaches to the others. This is real education. So this is the most important point, and this is up to my words to any type of population, you know. We don't necessarily need heads full with things, but we need heads well built, built with order, built with values, built with sensitivity, built with empathy. So this is, and with values, of course. So this is what we need. And up to my words, you know, at my age and in the light of my experience, if we go into that direction, I know it's not easy because we have to work a lot, but I'm quite sure that this is the right direction, you know, to take.
So it's very interesting what Msgr Thivierge has shared with us. One thing I learned during these 2 episodes is that, you know, to become a good leader, to be able to accept the challenges when you were chosen to have a mission is really, first of all, the family upbringing. I think the Filipino has to recognize their own identity, and this identity has to be spread. Vatican, the Holy See, has a lot of networking. With 42 languages, we can tell the world this is our chance after this election. We can start to work together, that there is so much hope, that there is light in this country. And this is what Monsignor Gabriel has given us, you know, the Filipino youth, a chance to tell the world storytelling, to tell the world that we Filipinos can contribute something. And I really believe that our journalistic, you know, student can really send out the message that the Holy Spirit wants people all over the world to see now who we are as a Filipino. I hope you enjoy our episode. Until next week, here at Power Tonight with Elvira.